You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
I really can't stay.
Baby, it's cold outside.
I gotta go away.
Baby, it's cold outside.
This evening has been
Hoping that you dropped in.
very nice.
I'll hold your hands, they're just like
My
mine.
mother will start to worry.
Beautiful, what's your
My father
hurry?
will be pacing the floor.
Listen to that fireplace
So
roar.
really I'd better scurry.
Beautiful, please don't
Well,
hurry.
maybe just to have a drink more.
I'll put some records on while I
The
pour.
neighbors might think,
Baby, it's bad out there.
say what's in this drink.
No cabs to be had out there.
I wish I knew
Your
how
eyes are like starlight
to
now.
break this spell.
I'll take your hat.
Oh,
Your
thank you.
hair looks
I
swell.
ought to say no, no,
Mind
no,
if
sir.
I move in
At least
closer?
I'm gonna say that I tried.
What's the sense of hurting my pride?
I really can't say.
Baby, don't hold out. Baby, it's cold outside.
You're very pushy, you know.
Playing outlawed tunes on outlawed pipes.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
Incoming transmission.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you. You are listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway, from beautiful western Phoenix, Arizona, where, yes, indeed, baby, it is cold outside. It is in the 60s in Arizona, which I know everybody back east is like, 60s, come on. But, hey, the needle gets below like 70 degrees out here. People are busting out the parkas. So, yeah, moving right along. A little bit chilly out there. Reason why we gave you the Buble pipes on the beginning of the show there is because according to news outlets, Baby It's Cold Outside is apparently being pulled from radio stations in light of the Me Too movement and the fact that it promotes quote-unquote rape culture. That's right, the classic song Baby It's Cold Outside, which is, basically follows a couple through a bit of a courtship around the holidays, where the man is trying to encourage the woman to stay, despite her needing to get home and meet her family and worried about what people will say, and, you know, maybe just a half a drink more. And it's a sweet song. It always has been. It's always been a tiny bit cheeky, don't get me wrong, but it's a sweet song. It's a romantic song. And now, yes, Me Too and, you know, rape culture being what they are, You can't listen to Baby It's Cold Outside. Well, damn it, it's one of my favorites. And I'm going to make sure that it survives here on the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. And get ready for the copyright strike. Let the demonetization process begin, as Weebo Jones would say. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Today is the 2nd of December in the year of our Lord 2018. It is the first Sunday of Advent, so may the Lord bless you and keep you. Lift his countenance upon you, bring you peace on this first day of Advent. If you do that, you're going to light your first candle, say your first set of prayers today. I know that's what me, the wife, and the kids are going to be doing later on today. And it means that the men and women of the North American Aerospace Defense Command are beginning to track jolly old Saint Nick. It's time. It's time! Excuse me. Still not completely over that cough yet. But, at least I'm doing a little bit better about leaning away from the microphone, unlike last week. So, we have a bunch of stories to get to. First and foremost, President Donald Trump, according to The Hill, and President Xi Jinping agreed to a 90-day tariff pause, citing progress on trade disputes. This is at the G20 summit. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping announced Saturday in the evening a 90-day pause on new tariff actions as the two countries attempt to finalize an agreement on intellectual property, technology theft, and non-tariff trade barriers. The White House announced the agreement in a statement following Trump and Xi's working dinner in Argentina as part of the Group of G20 summit. A Group of 20 G20 summit. Yeah, you know what I meant. Either way, down in Argentina, apparently making some progress with the president of China, seemingly much to the chagrin of the mainstream media, but much to the delight and acclaim of Wall Street, with most Wall Street pundits saying brace for some growth coming in on Monday. The stock market should make for a very, very interesting field to cover on Monday morning. But I do a weekend show, so have fun with that, you media folks who cover Wall Street all day. Wall Street Journal's probably going to be beside themselves, unable to explain how a president who's so terrible at everything has seemingly read the tea leaves correctly and brought home a big win. So, the quote is, President Trump and President Xi have agreed to immediately begin negotiations on structural changes with respect to forced technology transfer, intellectual property protection, non-tariff barriers, cyber intrusions and cyber theft, services, and agriculture, the White House said in a statement. Quote, China will agree to purchase a not yet agreed upon but very substantial amount of agricultural, energy, industrial, and other products from the United States to reduce the trade imbalance between our two countries. The statement continued, adding, China has agreed to start purchasing agricultural product from our farmers immediately. If the two countries cannot reach a deal within 90 days, the White House says the existing 10% tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods will increase to 25%. This is an amazing and productive meeting with unlimited possibilities for both the United States and China. It is my great honor to be working with President Xi, Trump said in a statement released by the White House. So, a little Christmas present for the American people. A trade agreement with China. Whoa! Tired of winning yet? Putting that out there. And in other news, we go to the AP. International go south of the border. Mexico's new leader says military essential to fight crime. Mexico City President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, remember that guy? We talked about that guy before he got elected. That's going to be important later. Used his first full day in office on Sunday to double down on promises to deploy Mexico's military for public security to address a key concern, stemming rampant violence and rising murders. Speaking before rows of generals at a sun-drenched military installation in one of Mexico City's toniest neighborhoods? Is that a freaking word? Toniest. People in the comment field, get on it, please. Toniest. Did the AP just screw up here? I would have said toughest. Anyway, López Obrador said the retooling of the military is indispensable to tackle the daunting task of making Mexico safer. The plan requires a constitutional reform that would allow the Marines and Army to form a National Guard to police much of the country. Mexico's Supreme Court last month struck down a controversial law signed last year that created a similar legal framework, ruling the measure was an unconstitutional attempt to normalize the use of armed forces in public safety. Deep-rooted corruption and ineffectiveness among police forces have led Mexico to rely heavily for years on the military to combat drug cartels in parts of the country. But both human rights groups and military commanders have long expressed uneasiness about this open-ended policing mission. Now, a quick aside here, the United States has a similar legal precedent here. We have a similar legal concept, which is the Posse Comitatus Act, which forbids local law enforcement from utilizing military forces for law enforcement reasons. You can't, for example, utilize the military to arrest someone for an outstanding warrant or for a parking ticket. You can't use them for material assistance in that way. The military has in the past been utilized for logistical support, but as I explained in a previous show about Posse Comitatus, it has a special meaning here in Arizona because in the old days, back in the 1800s, the sheriff of a city would literally go to the nearest military post, the nearest fort, and call in the cavalry. That's not just a meme. That's a thing that happened here in Arizona. You would go and round up a posse, and the best place to go get a posse is at the military base. Why? Because they already have guns, and they're already pretty experienced. So they would round up a posse, usually composed of military officers on loan from the army, and they would come into the town and they would restore order. This could obviously be misused and obviously trampled on the rights of citizens. So the Posse Comitatus Act was put into place in order to safeguard the American public from military rule or from corrupt rule propped up by the military. So Mexico is looking, I think reasonably, at stripping away their concept of Posse Comitatus and enabling the Mexican military to go full-bore offensive against crime in Mexico. I have no choice. I've got to applaud President Lopez Obrador on this one. Okay, I'm a little concerned about the guy in general, but when we talk about Mexico, we are talking about a failed state on our southern border. I make no bones about it. It is a failed state. And if the Mexican government is able to push this through and is able to let their military off the chain to restore order in the countryside in Mexico, I think we're going to see big improvements south of the border. Furthermore, under existing military compacts and existing military agreements, this could potentially enable United States military support of these efforts. Because as soon as this becomes an official military operation, then that falls under NATO. North Atlantic Treaty Organization, kids. So in that case, the Mexican government under President Obrador could request American support in taking out the cartels. And I think that is the answer. I think we need a coordinated assault in order to restore order in Mexico. It is a clear and present danger. And I believe wholeheartedly that President Trump needs to continue to commit troops to the southwestern border. We must hold the line at our border and intervene if and when Mexico requests it. Meanwhile, I applaud this effort by the Obrador administration to start cleaning their own damn house. It's about bloody time. And I will say this. Tonight, pause in your prayers on this first Sunday of Advent. Say a prayer for President Obrador. Because Mexican civil leaders, Mexican government officers who go against the cartels and against the criminal regime south of the border like this do not tend to live to see the end of their term. So, pray for the safety of the President of Mexico as he attempts to bring his military to bear to restore order in a shattered country. The story goes on. Erica Guevara Rosas, the America's director for Amnesty International, has called militarized security, quote, a failed model that has led to serious human rights violations at the hands of the armed forces. You know, I'm going to disagree. I think that Amnesty International, with all due respect, is taking a very narrow view of things. right now the actual law enforcement in Mexico is as bad, if not worse. Hopes for change are running high among the more than 30 million Mexicans who voted for López Obrador in a sweeping July 1st election victory that also gave his party a majority in Congress. At the same time, worries are mounting among critics who see an expanding authoritarian streak. In 3 or 4 more legislators defect to his Morena party, it would have a supermajority needed to pass constitutional reforms. Gustavo Madero, a leading senator with the opposition National Action Party, told the Associated Press that he's very concerned that bills could quickly make their way through Congress with little input from effective parties or political debate. We are going to raise attention to the political costs of democratic abuses, and that is where we're going to be able to achieve some concessions, said Madero, whose great-uncle was a martyred Mexican president who López Obrador admires and mentions almost daily. López Obrador said he will put the question of creating a National Guard to a referendum so that the people can weigh in on the decision, as they did with the question of whether to continue the construction of a $13 billion airport for the capital that was a third built. Little more than 1% of registered voters participated in that airport referendum, with a majority calling to halt the project. The peso and Mexican stocks plunged in response. But Valeria Moy, director of Mexico Como Vamos think tank, called such referendums authoritarianism in disguise because the questionnaires can be tailored to validate executive proposals. So check out the story. Link in the description down at AP News. Again, I'm sticking to my guns on this one. I think that President López Obrador is taking reasonable action. And when we come back, we're going to talk about another stunning development in the Spanish-speaking world. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around. Hey everyone, this is Matt Holloway, and I hope you're enjoying our podcast so far. It's been exciting putting this together for you, and I'm looking forward to many more to come. I did want to let you know that in setting up the HoloNet and getting everything launched here, we've gone ahead and set up a page on Patreon.com. Now, if you haven't heard of Patreon, Patreon is a website that's similar to other crowdfunding sources that allows you to support on a month-to-month basis those sources, those artists, and those groups that you really care about and that you're passionate about. And I hope that we can ignite passion in a lot of people to become more involved in the political process, and also to become involved in the conversation and to keep that political dialogue alive. So I'd like to humbly ask you today to consider becoming a patron of the HoloNet on Patreon.com, and you can access that at Patreon.com/TheHoloNet. We have various levels of patronage. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, which unlocks exclusive content for the Patreon community, such as a feed of patron-only content. Then you have a $5 option, which gives you behind-the-scenes access to blog about the different inspirations that we have. It'll give you access to patrons-only polling. And then we have a $10 option, which gives you a signed digital poster plus everything else. $20 option, which gives you name in the credits on the site, and all other rewards. And we even have a segment sponsor package available on Patreon, which is $125 a month, which entitles you and your business to a 60-second ad as a segment sponsor during the podcast, of course, subject to content approval. So if you would like to become a patron of the HoloNet, we would be greatly thankful to you, and it's going to go toward a solid cause of generating this sort of millennial constitutional conservative content that is so lacking in our media today. So thank you for your time, for your consideration, and for being a part of the HoloNet. Here we hold the line against the night, and the millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Yes, we are back. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Don't touch that dial, even though I'm not really on the radio yet. But hey, we're in a podcast, and that's bloody close enough. Hey, sorry about the Star Trek pop on there, because I'm a pretty big Trekkie, but gonna have to take that out in post. All right, coming back from the break, I said we were going to talk about something else that is shattering the ground in the Spanish-speaking world, so we are going to shoot over the pond to Spain. No, I don't have a cool audio cutaway for that. I haven't pre-programmed it because this was unexpected. So, in Madrid, according to Reuters, link in the description, far-right party wins seats in Spain's Andalusia region, according to preliminary results in Madrid. Spain's far-right Vox party won 12 seats in a regional election in Andalusia on Sunday, according to preliminary results, a first in decades for a far-right party in Spain. The preliminary official results, with 87% of the votes counted, showed the Socialists getting most seats, but falling well short of the majority with only 34 of the regional parliament's 109 seats. Votes were widely distributed, with the Conservative People's Party seen getting 26 seats, the center-right Ciudadanos and the far-left Podemos 20 and 17 respectively. Vox could potentially end up as a kingmaker if it were to back a possible alliance between the People's Parties and the Ciudadanos. So, we are seeing a continuation of a trend that we pointed out here on the HoloNet Podcast going back 2-3 months ago with the rise of nationalism across the Western world and the seeming rise of more far-right and conservative parties. Now we're seeing it arrive in Spain. And what are we seeing in France at present? Just the opposite, in fact. We're seeing violent anarcho-socialism in France. Again, we're using Reuters. They seem to be my favorite today. Excuse me. According to Reuters, stunned Parisians clean up posh central district after the worst riots since 1968. Workmen cleared away burned hulks of cars, scrubbed the defaced Arc de Triomphe monument, dang, and replaced shattered windows of luxury boutiques in Paris on Sunday. Whew, look at that picture. After the worst riots in the center of the capital in half a century. Several thousand riot police were overwhelmed on Saturday as they fought running battles with protesters in the shadows of some of Paris's fabled landmarks and through its fanciest shopping district. More than 4,000 people were arrested, more than 100 injured, shocking Parisians and tourists alike. At the base of the 19th century Arc de Triomphe, which Hitler famously marched under when Paris fell in World War II, I had a little add-on from me, police kept the public back as cleanup crews set about erasing graffiti, much of it targeting President Emmanuel Macron and some exuding anarchist sentiment such as overthrow the bourgeoisie. Now, I have to make a editorial comment here about Reuters. Overthrow the bourgeoisie is not an anarchist statement. That is a socialist statement. That is a communist statement. Anarchists don't talk about overthrowing the bourgeoisie. The phrase bourgeoisie actually comes from the Communist Manifesto. It is frequently used in socialist writings. What are you trying to pull here? This is one of the most obvious instances where the mainstream media is trying to kind of soft land socialism and the left. No, overthrow the bourgeoisie is not an anarchist statement per se. Anarchists want to overthrow the government. They want to overthrow everything. They want no government. That is what anarchism is. Not the bourgeoisie. Idiots. Anyway, I've worked on monuments around Paris for 20 years. I've never seen anything like this. The Arc de Triomphe, it was carnage, a Paris City Hall official overseeing the cleanup said, as his team worked on graffito reading, Macron resign. Authorities were caught off guard by the escalation in violence after 2 weeks of nationwide unrest against fuel taxes and high living costs, known as the Yellow Vest movement, after the fluorescent jackets worn by the protesters. On the Rue de Royale, in the heart of Paris, half a dozen laborers gingerly replaced glass panes in front of a Dior store. Next door, a Chanel employee vacuumed shards of glass from the floor, while carpenters removed the plywood panels that had been protecting a Gucci shop. The government said it would consider a state of emergency in the face of unrest across the country. The violence in Paris was the worst in the elegant center of the capital since the May 1968 student uprising that brought France to its knees. Maybe the army should intervene. We are already afraid of what's going to happen next week. The violence is escalating at an exponential rate, said Cloud, a well-heeled woman who lives next to the Bellarmé brasserie that was set ablaze. The state is losing control. They cannot let this happen. Maybe the army should intervene. Parisians and tourists surveyed the aftermath, capturing the moment on smartphones as the capital digested the chaos that now poses a serious challenge to Macron's presidency. Amaya Fuster was quoted, "Macron has a problem on his hands. Everyone's fed up. He's got to listen more. There's enough money in the coffers of businessmen. Share the riches." Holy crap. Socialists are overthrowing France. Gee! It seems like somebody warned us about this, like Marine Le Pen. Oh my God. Authorities said violent groups on the far right and the far left, as well as thugs from the suburbs, had infiltrated the Yellow Vest movement in Paris that Saturday. There were signs that some of the hardcore troublemakers were part of the anarchist and anti-capitalist movement. There's a word that they keep missing, that they refuse to use. They just absolutely, positively will not use it. Look at how they're dancing around the word socialist or communist. Part of the anarchist and anti-capitalist movement, banks, insurance companies, upmarket private homes, cafes, and glitzy boutiques were among the properties smashed up and looted. The protests are taking a toll on the economy. On Saturday, boulevards that should have been packed with tourists and Christmas shoppers resembled battle zones as smoke and tear gas hung in the air and debris littered the ground. Hotels and department stores in the capital stand to lose millions. "We thought that's our holiday over," said Yao Lei, a Chinese tourist from Shanghai who arrived in Paris at dawn and received video images of the chaos on his flight. "We're here to shop, but we wondered if we'd have to go straight to Milan instead." So let's recap, shall we? President Trump in détente with North Korea. President Trump's trade war with China seems to be coming to a close, with détente established at least for the next 90 days, coinciding perfectly with the Christmas rush, Q4 earnings, and Q1 earnings next year. Far-right party seems to be taking control in Andalusia region of Spain, which indicates the first time a far-right party has risen up there in over a century, going all the way back to Francisco Franco. Thank you. Good brain. Mexico's new president is calling for an end to restrictions against the military being used in a law enforcement capacity in order to restore order in his country. And, Jesus, do we have anything normal happening? This all in the face of Poland taking a very hard Christian conservative turn, Germany announcing the Bundeswehr, their army, will be increasing in size in order to better defend Europe. Italian efforts to shift further to the right and away from the EU continue. Tell you what, I really would not want to be a high-ranking member of the European Union just today. Would not want to be, because it seems to be flying apart. And this is the globalist catastrophe, and is amounting to a huge win for freedom-loving Americans. Now, the Mueller investigation is steaming on. There's more than enough press saturation on that, so I'm not going to touch it, because I don't really think there's anything there at this moment that is particularly newsworthy. We're keeping our eye on it. We know there's issues with the Cohen testimony and Manafort, and we're waiting for President Trump to make good on his threat to unleash classified FISA documentation, which is apparently quite damning of the Democratic Party. I'm quite looking forward to that. His statement over the past week that he punches back even harder and that they really don't want him to declassify those papers, I'm saying, please declassify those papers just so we can get all this over with. But if you lean back and you take the wide view, it is beginning to look an awful lot like Christmas. Everywhere you go. Take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Interior Secretary Zinke taking some, I think, well-deserved shots at an Arizona congressman. That's coming up here on the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. If you want to follow, you can follow us on Facebook Live, YouTube, TuneIn, iHeart, really anywhere great content is found. We are on lanterns.buzz. That's holonet.lanterns.buzz, theholonet.com. And we will be right back.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Simply must go.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The answer is no.
But baby, it's cold outside.
The welcome has been
How lucky that you
so
dropped in.
nice and warm.
Look out the window at that
My
star.
sister will be suspicious.
Gosh, your lips look
My
delicious.
brother will be there at the door.
Waves upon a tropical
My
shore.
maiden aunt's mind is
Gosh,
vicious.
your lips are
Or
delicious.
maybe just a cigarette more.
Never such a
And I don't even
blizzard
smoke.
before.
I gotta get home.
Baby, you'll freeze out there.
Say, lend me your comb.
It's up to your knees out there.
You've really been grand.
I feel when I touch your
But
hand.
don't you see?
How can you do this thing to me?
There's bound to be a talk tomorrow.
Think of my lifelong
At least
sorrow.
there'll be plenty in play.
If you got pneumonia and
I
die,
really can't stay.
get over that hola. Baby, it's cold. Baby, it's cold outside.
Okay, fine. Just another drink then.
Well, that took a lot of convincing.
Playing outlawed tunes on outlawed pipes.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
You're listening to HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. From Phoenix, this is Matt Holloway. Oh man, if I don't get copyright slammed on this episode, I'm gonna be shocked. I mean, think about this. Whenever I do my my jump over the pond bit, where I bust out Hail Britannia, I'll find it on here in a second and I'll play it for you, because that pretty much guarantees that I get copyright popped. I don't know if you've listened to this show on YouTube or if I think I'm actually up to like 18 subscribers on YouTube. It's pretty wild. I didn't even think we were gonna get that far, but yeah, every time I use Hail Britannia, I get copyright popped. Every time I use every time I use a Winston Churchill cut. When I was just starting off the show, I had a really awesome compilation of quotes that I used, conservative quotes. People didn't like it, they're like, hey, you're like 3 minutes of quotes and then your show, so you should get rid of that. So I did. But I liked it, and I might bring that back. Hey, if you want me to bring back the conservative quotes, let me know. I have all that sound. But yeah, that pretty much guarantees a copyright pop, because there's some jackhole out there, not a Mojo 50 jackhole, those people are awesome, but I mean some jackhole as in, a person who is not worthy of having an internet connection, who decided that they were going to copyright Calvin Coolidge's speech. I want people to be able to, make less for the government, more for themselves, to be able to, enjoy the products of their own industry, Yeah, they copyright that. They put a copyright block on it on YouTube. So every time I included that, I get copyright dinged and I can't monetize the video. So that's the kind of BS I'm dealing with. But, as I said, Baby It's Cold Outside now being added to the blacklist because it's so very rapey. Nope. Not here. Not now. Not on the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Here, we hold the line against the night. And in Phoenix, Baby, it is cold outside. And that's a good song. So, right before the break, said we're going to do Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. I always think of the white stuff you put on your nose. Ryan Zinke has launched an extraordinary attack on Democratic lawmaker. This according to the New York Times, all the muck that's fit to rake. Washington. In one corner was Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, a swaggering cowboy type who once rode to work on a horse named Tonto. Really? And has faced at least a dozen ethics investigations. In the other, Representative Raul M. Grijalva, an Arizona Democrat who's been accused of having ethical issues of his own, and who's itching to take on Mr. Zinke next year from his perch as the chairman of a committee on Capitol Hill. Their tensions exploded on Friday in one of the more remarkable public feuds in recent Washington history, a brutal exchange that began when Mr. Grijalva calling on Mr. Zinke to resign, followed by Mr. Zinke calling Mr. Grijalva a drunkard who used taxpayer hush money to cover up misbehavior, which, by the way, he did. And Mr. Grijalva telling Zinke to, in effect, bring it on. Quote, "It's hard for him to think straight from the bottom of the bottle," Mr. Zinke wrote on Twitter in a message that left many in the Capitol slack-jawed. This is coming from a man who used nearly $50,000 in tax dollars as hush money to cover up his drunken and hostile behavior. He should resign and pay back the taxpayer for the hush money and the tens of thousands of dollars he forced my department to spend on investigating unfounded allegations. He included the hashtag #TuneInForMore, in with two N's, a reference to the Tune Inn, a popular Capitol Hill watering hole that Mr. Grijalva frequents. That's got a sting. The congressman was there on Friday when Mr. Zinke blasted out his tweet to his more than 88,000 followers. The hush money reference was to a 2015 agreement between Mr. Grijalva and a former House employee who'd accused him of overseeing a hostile work environment and frequently being drunk. The employee had threatened to file a lawsuit and was paid $48,395 in severance. Mr. Grijalva has acknowledged that the severance package was paid to an employee, but has insisted that he, quote, does not work while drunk, and that he has never had a hostile workplace environment. Still, he did tell a Tucson television station earlier this year that he beat the demons of alcohol when he was younger. House Ethics Board looked into the severance payment and recommended that a complaint against Mr. Grijalva be dismissed. Mr. Grijalva declined an interview request on Friday, but shot back at Mr. Zinke with a statement of his own. Quote, "The American people know who I'm here to serve." Yes, the private interests. The private interests. And, yeah. Anyway, they know whose interests I'm acting on. Soros. Open borders. Pueblos y fronteras. Excuse me. They don't know the same about Secretary Zinke. Personal attacks in the Capitol are, of course, nothing new. They date back to the earliest days of the Republic. During the presidential campaign of 1800, for instance, President John Adams was branded a hideous hermaphroditical character. a mix of a man and woman, by allies of Thomas Jefferson. But even as the combative and vituperatively partisan standards of President Trump's Washington, the Zinke tweet was a startling breach of decorum and the norms that usually govern relationships between senior government officials, particularly a cabinet secretary, and a member of a congressional committee overseeing his department. Now, they're just going to go into reaction here. But one very important piece that I notice is absent here, okay, is the New York Times mentions the over a dozen ethics complaints that were leveled against Zinke. They didn't mention that he friggin' beat them all. You find that a little funny? Yeah, so these allegations that have been leveled against Zinke, yeah, he beat the crap out of them. He smoked them. They were found to be baseless, okay? And The Hill actually has a really nice write-up on this. Secretary Zinke's Interior Department is a force for good. This is written by Representative Robert Bishop, an opinion contributor from Utah. This is in The Hill right now. What good is a natural park closed due to crumbling roads or a national forest always ravaged by wildfires or recreation area capriciously placed off limits by a bureaucrat? What good is a land management system that can't respond to people because of cumbersome rules and internal red tape? See, these are the questions Department of Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke has been asking. So if you want to see a little bit more about Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, take some time to look into it. This guy has been embattled with ethics investigations that were found to be groundless. He beat them all. All right? And now we have, I would say, one of Arizona's more shameful representatives. Let me see. Wasn't he arrested? Yeah, he was arrested not too long ago. Grijalva arrested. Let me see if I can pull this up, because I laughed so hard. I lolled at this one. Here we go. Tucson.com. Representative Raul Grijalva arrested at Trump Tower during a protest. Yeah, this is a thing that actually happened, folks. Here we go. There he is being let off in handcuffs. Yes. Oh, it's hysterical. It feels good. Feels good. Warms the cockles. So, a little over a year ago, September 19th, 2017, I guess he forgot. Raul Grijalva was arrested during a protest in front of Trump Tower in New York City. Tucson Democrat was one of 3 congressmen arrested as part of a march demanding that Congress pass the DREAM Act. So you want to know who Grijalva supports, who Grijalva represents? That's who he represents. Grijalva represents the Dreamers, the DREAM Act, Pueblos Sin Fronteras, the open borders initiatives of Soros. That's who Grijalva reports to. And he's more than willing to go to jail on the taxpayer's dime and to pay out a $50,000 settlement to shut up one of his congressional aides who pointed out the fact that he's a drunken wreck, apparently, in the office and creates a toxic work environment. Which, gee, you can't find that hard to believe if you hear him speak. Raul Grijalva is an ongoing humiliation to the people of the state of Arizona. He is an insult to this state. I am ashamed that this man represents my state in Congress. So yeah, Zinke took a shot at him. What's that song? Hey man, nice shot? Yeah, that was a nice one. Ryan Zinke, worthy of another look. You know, I haven't dug into this guy, his background, in too big of a way. But seriously, keep him in your thoughts. Because if Grijalva becomes chairman of that panel, whew, Zinke's job is going to get a lot harder. All right. So we're coming up on the last 15 here. I'll take one more quick break. And when we come back... Oh, hell, have I run out of stories? No, I haven't. Because I do have to call attention to one of the sillier things that I've seen lately. I was rolling right before I cut the show, right before I recorded it. T-Series versus PewDiePie. That's right. Right now, there is an ongoing battle raging across the YouTubes of the very corporate T-Series, which is a Bollywood, India-centric YouTube channel. It's actually 20-some-odd YouTube channels all put together. They are a corporate entity, and they are very rapidly gaining ground in subscribership on YouTube and threatening to dethrone the king of YouTube himself, Felix Kjellberg, a.k.a. PewDiePie. And I put out a tweet just earlier today. Check that out. You can follow me at the HollowNet on the Twitters. Also, of course, you can follow at LanternsBuzz to follow the whole network here. But I had to tweet out about this with the link to the video. Impassioned pleas are rising across social media as YouTubers fight to fend off corporate T-Series from claiming the number one subscriber spot from PewDiePie. Markiplier, notable YouTuber, and the Bro Army are rallying around the king of YouTube, PewDiePie, in a valiant last stand. Markiplier, who is another high-ranking YouTube personality based here in the U.S., he is a game reviewer and overall comedian. He posted a video saying, "I literally won't shut up until you subscribe to PewDiePie." There we go. Sorry about that. Had an audio pop-up. Those are always fun. So we'll check on that when we come back real quick following the short break. You're listening to the HollowNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around.
Reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HollowNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
And we're back. You're listening to the HollowNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. According to the Metro, 3 hours ago, it looks like PewDiePie is giving up the fight against T-Series for YouTube's most subscribed channel. Tossing that up on the big screen right now. There we go. It's a sad day for PewDiePie fans, referring to T-Series only being a short few thousand subscribers. Felix tweeted, "It looks like this is it, boys," attaching a photo reading, "Dawn of the final day, 24 hours remain." Fellow YouTuber Mr. Beast, who's headed up a campaign to keep Pewds at the top, replied, "It was an honor fighting by your side." It all started back in October when Indian music label T-Series looked set to overtake PewDiePie as the most subscribed channel on YouTube. However, the Swedish gamer has been holding them off until now, partly thanks to the huge advertising campaign and that followed. American vlogger Mr. Beast began a campaign by buying billboards as well as radio and newspaper ads, urging people to subscribe to Felix's channel. It all escalated very quickly from there, with some going to extreme lengths to promote the YouTuber, with an eye-watering amount of money involved. While printers across the UK and Canada were hacked to encourage people to join the battle, Team 10 member Justin Roberts spent $1 million buying a billboard in Times Square. Previously speaking about the battle, PewDiePie told Metro.co.uk, "It's hilarious. I love how fans are so into it from both sides." However, the gamer himself has been acting cool as a cucumber about the whole thing, as he admitted that he was surprised no one stepped up sooner. Fans are understandably a bit gutted. One tweeted, "Don't give up now. Still number one in our hearts. Thank you for your service, Commander." Another one wrote. We're getting a little bit emotional, guys. But then, this is 3 hours old, but then just in the last hour, what the story that I had pointed out was that Mark Fishbach, a.k.a. Markiplier, put up this video here.
realize what truly, honestly is important. And sometimes in the world you can see the darkness in this life, the darkness in this world. But today, no, that is not today. Not today, not here, not now, in no way, shape, or form are we going to let the darkness of this world overtake the one true source of light that we have left in this life. Yes, it's true. I'm talking about PewDiePie. And we must all do our part in this fight, whether we feel like we're a part of it or not. Because the truth is, this affects all of us. Every single one of us. Every single one of us needs to fight harder than we've ever fought before. When the darkness seems overwhelmingly grim, that's when we need to dig deep. That's when we must truly, truly dig harder than you've ever dug before. Down in the description, there is a link that goes directly to subscribe to PewDiePie, and I recommend that you go there immediately right now. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't do anything that you wouldn't ordinarily do on a good Sunday like today.
Well, Mark, here at the HoloNet Podcast, we were one of the first groups, even though we're small, to jump up and defend PewDiePie against allegations that he was a Nazi and an anti-Semite. I'll throw a link to that in the description as well. But we're doing our part here at the HoloNet Podcast. We have retweeted Markiplier's valiant attempt to keep PewDiePie on top. We're going to include the link below where you can subscribe to PewDiePie, if you so wish. And you know what? I wish him all the best. I wish him all the best of luck. I'm going to see if we can pull up a live count here to see where we're at. Is this a live? Wow, that is very loud in my ears. The live count shows that PewDiePie is still ahead with 73,252,800 subscribers to T-Series' 73,073,000. PewDiePie, keep it going. Keep it going. Hat tip to Flare TV, by the way, for the live count on PewDiePie. So that is the struggle that is embroiling us today in the second day of December in the year of our Lord 2018. Socialist takeover in France, it seems, is in the offing. PewDiePie is fighting for his crown. These things are equally important, are they not? Are you not entertained? Either way, folks, it's been an interesting Sunday. Don't forget to light your candle. It'll be your first candle of Advent tonight if that's a thing that your family does. It's definitely a tradition among the Holloway household. Things don't look so dark. Things don't look so grim today. Today was a good day. So to all those members of the Bro Army and all of the Ipliers, the Markiplier fans that are out there, and everybody else who's watching the ongoing battle from the gross corporate gargantuan of T-Series versus the solo indie content creator Felix Kjellberg, aka PewDiePie, with the same amount of unironic enjoyment and bemusement that I am. Good night. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And of course, Bro Fist. From Phoenix, Arizona, I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Good night.